June 2009. An 83-year-old woman in Washington state was told she had 3 to 6 months to live. Stage 4, breast cancer, metastasized to her liver. Her oncologist called it the second worst case she had seen in 20 years. The woman was too old for radiation, too frail for aggressive surgery. What happened next defied every projection on her chart. She began taking 8 capsules a day of a mushroom extract, 4 in the morning, 4 in the evening, alongside conventional chemotherapy. 7 months later, she was virtually cancer-free. No detectable tumors. The mushroom that helped save her life was not rare. It was not expensive. It was not locked behind a prescription. It was growing on a dead log less than 100 yards from her front door. That mushroom is called turkey tail, Trametes versicolor, and it is arguably the most common bracket fungus on Earth. You have almost certainly walked past it. It grows on every continent except Antarctica, on fallen hardwood, on rotting stumps, on the underside of park benches. It has been used as medicine for over 2,000 years. Japan approved a compound extracted from it as a prescription anti-cancer drug in 1977. By 1987, that compound accounted for more than 25% of the entire national expenditure on anti-cancer agents in Japan. And its anti-inflammatory mechanism targets the exact same enzymes that ibuprofen does, cyclooxygenase and lipoxygenase, except without destroying your stomach lining, without thinning your blood, and without the cardiovascular risks printed in fine type on every bottle of NSAIDs you have ever purchased. Today, we are opening a vault that connects ancient Chinese pharmacology to modern oncology, to the quiet epidemic of chronic inflammation, silently eroding your joints, your gut, and your immune system right now. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to harvest, prepare, and use this mushroom for free to do what a $120 billion pharmaceutical industry would rather you kept paying them to do. The earliest recorded medicinal use of turkey tail dates to the Han Dynasty in China, roughly 2,000 years ago. The Shen Nong Ben Cao Jing, the foundational pharmacopoeia of Chinese herbalism, lists a fungus called yunji among its most valued remedies. The name translates to cloud mushroom. In traditional Chinese medicine, it was classified as a tonic for qi, vital energy, prescribed to clear dampness and purify toxic heat from the body. Practitioners brewed it into long-simmered teas and administered it to patients recovering from prolonged illness and what they described as stagnation diseases, conditions we would today recognize as chronic inflammatory disorders. But China was not alone. In Japan, the same mushroom was called kawaratake, mushroom by the riverbank, and became the subject of intensive pharmaceutical research in the 1960s. Japanese scientists at Kureha Corporation isolated its most potent compound, a protein-bound polysaccharide they named Crestin, or PSK. It became the first mushroom-derived anti-cancer drug approved by a national health authority, anywhere. Across the Pacific, indigenous peoples of North America brewed turkey tail into medicinal teas for respiratory infections and immune support. Ethnobotanical records from the Pacific Northwest document its use among First Nations groups who recognize the mushroom's ability to restore strength after illness. In Europe, folk herbalists in Germany, Poland, and Scandinavia prepared similar decoctions from bracket fungi growing on birch and oak. This is not folklore. This is convergent pharmacology, the same molecular truth discovered independently by cultures separated by oceans and millennia through observation, necessity, and generational wisdom. So what is turkey tail actually doing inside your body? The primary active compounds are 2 families of polysaccharopeptides, PSK and PSP. These are large, but protein-bound beta-glucan molecules with a molecular weight of approximately 100,000 Daltons, a beta-1,4-glucan backbone with beta-1,3 and beta-1,6 side branches. This molecular architecture is one your immune system is specifically evolved to recognize. When you consume turkey tail, these beta-glucans bind to toll-like receptor 2 on the surface of your dendritic cells and macrophages. This is not a vague immune boost. This is a specific receptor-ligand interaction, as precise as a key entering a lock. TLR2 activation triggers a cascade that matures dendritic cells, corrects the Th1/Th2 immune balance, and stimulates the proliferation of CD8 T cells and natural killer cells, the two cell types most directly responsible for destroying cancerous tissue and virus-infected cells. But here is where the anti-inflammatory story becomes extraordinary. Turkey tail contains over 35 distinct phenolic compounds, including quercetin and bacoline. Quercetin inhibits cyclooxygenase and lipoxygenase, the exact same enzyme families that ibuprofen, aspirin, and naproxen target. COX and LOX enzymes produce prostaglandins and leukotrienes, the signaling molecules that drive pain, swelling, and tissue damage in conditions from arthritis to colitis to asthma. But here is the critical distinction. Ibuprofen is a blunt instrument. It suppresses COX-1 and COX-2 indiscriminately, which is why it shreds your gastric mucosa and raises your risk of cardiovascular events with prolonged use. Turkey tail's approach is different. It modulates. In laboratory studies, turkey tail extract reduced pro-inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha, IL-1 beta, and IL-6, while increasing anti-inflammatory cytokines like IL-10 and IL-1 receptor antagonist. It does not suppress inflammation. It rebalances the immune conversation. That difference is enormous. The modern scientific validation of turkey tail is not a handful of fringe studies. It is one of the most extensively researched medicinal mushrooms on Earth, with over 400 clinical studies. In Japan, PSK has been prescribed alongside chemotherapy since 1977. Meta-analyses of randomized controlled trials found that colorectal and gastric cancer patients receiving chemotherapy combined with PSK had significantly longer survival rates than those on chemotherapy alone, across studies involving over 8,000 patients. In 2010, the National Institutes of Health awarded a $5.4 million grant to Bastyr University and the University of Washington, the first federally funded study of a mushroom extract for cancer support in American history. The Phase 1 trial, published in ISRN Oncology, found that up to 9 grams per day of turkey tail was safe and well tolerated, and that patients taking 6 grams showed faster immune recovery after radiotherapy, measured by lymphocyte counts and natural killer cell activity. Let that sink in for a moment. A mushroom growing on a dead log in a public park demonstrated measurable, dose-dependent immune recovery in cancer patients in a trial funded by the NIH and approved by the FDA. The anti-inflammatory data is equally striking. A 2020 study in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences found that turkey tail extract inhibited pro-inflammatory and pro-angiogenic factors while suppressing NF-kappa B signaling, the master switch of chronic inflammation in the human body. In an animal model of colitis, mice treated with turkey tail extract for 4 weeks showed reduced levels of the pro-inflammatory mediators, TNF-alpha, IL-1 beta, and IL-6. The same cytokines that drive inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and metabolic syndrome. So if a mushroom this common, this well-researched, and this effective is prescribed as an approved medicine in the 3rd largest economy on Earth, why does almost no one in the Western world know about it? The answer is not a conspiracy. It is something more ordinary and more frustrating: economics. Turkey tail is a wild organism. Its active compounds are natural molecules that cannot be patented. Bastyr University's own research team acknowledged this publicly. Turkey tail's traditional use means its derivatives are probably not patentable, which has dissuaded pharmaceutical companies from funding trials. You cannot patent a mushroom that grows on every fallen oak from Oregon to Osaka. You cannot build a subscription business around a compound that has been in the public domain for 2,000 years. And you certainly cannot justify a $45 a bottle anti-inflammatory supplement when the active chemistry is sitting on a stump in your nearest forest, free of charge. The global anti-inflammatory drug market is valued at over $120 billion per year. NSAIDs alone account for more than $25 billion in annual revenue. Every year, NSAID-related gastrointestinal complications send over 100,000 Americans to the hospital. Roughly 16,000 die. These are not contested numbers. The pharmaceutical industry does not need you to stop taking ibuprofen. It needs you to never learn that there was a gentler, older, more sophisticated alternative growing in your backyard. And the mechanisms of that invisibility are remarkably effective. Search for natural anti-inflammatory online. And the first page will be dominated by advertisements for branded curcumin supplements and proprietary joint formulas costing $30 to $90 per month. Turkey tail rarely appears, not because the evidence is weak, but because no corporation has a financial incentive to promote it. Your doctor was never taught about it in medical school. Because medical school pharmacology is built around patentable molecules, not forest floor ecology. Television wellness segments recommend branded products because brands pay for placement. The language itself has been reframed. We say, take something for inflammation, when what we mean is buy something for inflammation. The possibility that you could walk into a forest and come home with medicine is not part of the cultural script. Now, to be fair, modern anti-inflammatory drugs have real advantages. They are standardized and fast-acting. For acute pain, a sprained ankle, a migraine, post-surgical recovery, NSAIDs work quickly and reliably. Nobody should throw away their ibuprofen. But for the 80 to 90% of inflammation that is chronic, low-grade, and systemic, the kind that drives arthritis, gut disorders, and long-term immune dysfunction, turkey tail offers something no NSAID can. Immune modulation without immune suppression, anti-inflammatory action without gastrointestinal destruction, and cumulative benefits that increase over months of consistent use rather than diminishing as your body develops tolerance. Here is exactly how to use turkey tail, step by step. Identification. Turkey tail grows in overlapping shelf-like clusters on dead or dying hardwood, oak, maple, beech, birch. The caps are thin, 2 to 8 centimeters across, displaying concentric bands of color from brown, tan, and gray to blue, green, and cream. The surface feels slightly velvety. The underside is covered in tiny pores, not gills. If you see gills, you do not have turkey tail. The pore surface should be white to pale cream, with 3 to 5 pores per millimeter. The flesh is thin, tough, and leathery. Harvesting. Collect from standing dead trees or fallen logs in areas away from roads, industrial sites, and chemically treated landscapes. Turkey tail accumulates heavy metals from contaminated soil, so location matters. Use a knife to slice the clusters at the base. Harvest year-round. Turkey tail is a perennial fruiter. Drying. Spread harvested mushrooms in a single layer on a screen or drying rack, or use a food dehydrator at 35 to 45 degrees Celsius. Fully dry when they snap cleanly. Store in airtight jars in a cool, dark place. Properly dried turkey tail keeps for over a year. Hot water decoction, the traditional method. Break or grind dried turkey tail into small pieces. Add 10 to 15 grams of dried mushroom to 1 liter of water. Bring to a boil. Then reduce to a low simmer. Simmer for a minimum of 2 hours. This extended extraction is necessary to break down the chitin cell walls and release the beta-glucans and polysaccharopeptides into the water. Strain through a fine mesh or cheesecloth. Drink 2 to 3 cups per day, warm or at room temperature. The tea has a mild, slightly earthy, faintly bitter flavor. Powdered supplement method. If foraging is not practical, purchase dried turkey tail from a reputable supplier. Look for certified organic, whole fruiting body products. Grind to a fine powder using a coffee grinder. Take 1 to 3 grams daily, stirred into coffee, tea, soup, or smoothies. For immune support during illness or recovery, increase to 6 to 9 grams daily, divided into 2 or 3 doses. Consistent with the dosing used in the Baxter University clinical trial. Double extraction tincture. For maximum compound extraction, combine both methods. Soak dried turkey tail in high-proof alcohol. 40% vodka works. For 4 to 6 weeks, shaking daily. Strain separately. Prepare a hot water decoction as above. Combine the alcohol extract and water decoction at a 1-to-1 ratio. This captures both water-soluble beta-glucans and alcohol-soluble terpenoids and phenolics. Take 1 to 2 milliliters, 2 to 3 times daily. Cost comparison. A month's supply of a premium branded mushroom supplement runs $30 to $60. Foraged turkey tail costs nothing. Even purchased dried whole turkey tail typically costs $15 to $25 per pound, enough for 2 to 3 months of daily use. Compare that to daily NSAID purchases, plus the proton pump inhibitors many chronic NSAID users need to protect their stomachs from the very drug they are taking for pain. That persistent ache in your knees, the stiffness in your hands every morning, the fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to fix. The answer may not be another bottle from the pharmacy shelf. It may be growing on the nearest dead oak, waiting for someone who knows what they are looking at. Chinese physicians knew it 2,000 years ago. Japanese scientists proved it in the 1960s. Indigenous healers across North America brewed it into medicine long before any of them could name the compounds inside it. And Paul Stamets watched it help save his mother's life. The oldest medicines are not always the weakest. Sometimes they are simply the ones that no one can sell you at a markup. Every share puts a crack in the wall built around knowledge that was never anyone's to lock away. If this changed how you think about what medicine actually is, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss what we uncover next. Every like tells the algorithm this matters more than another ad. Stay curious, stay self-reliant. I will see you in the next one.